At St Paul's Church, we are currently thinking about how we can use our time, talent and treasure to the glory of God and for the extension of his kingdom. In the book of Acts in the Bible, we meet a variety of people who were able to give their time, talent and treasure to help to build the kingdom of God. One of these people was a lady called Lydia. Let's find out about who Lydia was. But first, a bit of background. Lydia lived in Philippi, an important city in Greece, and at that time a colony of the Roman Empire. It had a thriving marketplace, a library, an amphitheatre and lots of temples dedicated to different pagan gods and goddesses that may have looked like this. There were only a few Jews living in the city. Everyone else was a Gentile, which simply meant that they were not Jewish. Lydia was a wealthy woman who ran a business buying and selling purple cloth. Purple, blue and scarlet dyes were very expensive because it was difficult to make them, and only the rich and royalty could afford clothes in those colours. Purple was made from the slime of a certain type of sea snail, and scarlet from the dried bodies of tiny scale insects that live on the sap of oak trees. Philippi was the first place in Europe that the Apostle Paul visited as he and his friends Silas and Timothy travelled to preach the good news. When Paul arrived in a new city, he usually headed for the synagogue, but there was no synagogue in Philippi. However, Paul discovered that on Sabbath days a group of women would meet by the river just outside the city to worship God and to pray together. One of these women was Lydia. Paul and his friends asked to join the women meeting by the river for prayer. Paul was given the opportunity to teach them the scriptures and to tell them all about Jesus the Messiah. Lydia listened intently to everything Paul said, and the Lord opened her heart to understand and believe in Jesus. Lydia then asked to be baptized as a follower of Jesus. So Lydia and everyone else living in her household were baptized. Lydia's household would include any family members and servants. Most households in those days were headed by men, but Lydia was a woman of rank, and as she was the head of her household, it seems likely that she was not married, or perhaps she was a widow. Lydia urged Paul, Silas and Timothy to stay at her house while they were in Philippi. After some persuasion, Paul and his friends agreed and made Lydia's home their base. Lydia's home became a meeting place for the first Christians in Philippi. Lydia later supported Paul and his companions financially as they made other missionary trips. She was a successful businesswoman who put God first in her life. And now we have a question for you. How did Lydia use her time, talent and treasure as a follower of Jesus? And what inspired you about the story? We are now going to divide into small groups in breakout rooms for about 5 minutes, and we would like you to spend a few minutes talking about the story of Lydia. Here's the question again. How did Lydia use her time, talent and treasure as a follower of Jesus, and what inspired you about the story? See you in a few minutes.